you don't care, no. You just don't care, no. I don't wanna play, baby, I'm just fine. I don't need you anymore.
For content information and the link to the written version of this video, please check the description below. Spoilers. This entry contains spoilers for episode 5 of Marvel Studios' What If series, so if you haven't seen it yet, I recommend you do that before checking out this entry. There will also be minor spoilers for the films Infinity War and Ant-Man and the Wasp. I do not own the rights to any of the characters or events mentioned. They are property of Marvel Studios and the Walt Disney Company. Before we start, if you would like to support me, please consider checking out my links in the description below, where you'll find my Cash App, my GoFundMe, and my Twitter handle at UTU with JJ, where you will find all the updates to my videos and my channel in general. I haven't been posting in a while, as you may have noticed, and this is because I have other commitments with uni and everything, but I am trying to work on my videos when I can. I know this video is a week later than the series has ended, and very late, but you know, I'm just glad that we get to continue loving this series even after it's ended. Anyway, let's get right into the video, shall we? So welcome to the 5th entry in this series, where we discuss each episode of Season 1 of Marvel's first ever MCU canon animated series. This series focuses on what would happen if one thing within MCU changed. These episodes are presented in 30-minute runtimes and are stuffed to the brim of juicy content to explore. In the 5th episode of What If, we follow what would happen if zombies entered the MCU. This entry is a few weeks late, as I mentioned, because I've been busy with uni and I was on holiday the week after it aired. Hopefully I can catch up before October ends. Disclaimer. I am not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company or Marvel Studios. All assets of these companies which I mention here are strictly for reviewing purposes. I do not claim to own any of the content, and I do encourage you all to check out the original media the content we are exploring was based on. I do encourage you to check out the original media the content we are exploring is based on. What birthed this new reality? Before we get into the main plot and what I thought of it, we need to start by seeing what changed. This new reality was born sometime before the episode is set, whilst Janet Van Dyne was trapped in the quantum realm. Whilst there, she contracts a quantum virus, which is brought back to the home dimension by Hank Pym, who goes to save her, but is himself infected by the virus. What if zombies? The plot. After zombie Hank and Janet return, they immediately set about turning Scott Lang into zombie chow, whilst their daughter Hope flees the scene. This trio escapes into the outside world, and before you know it, almost the entire planet is infected by this quantum virus, including the Avengers. Sometime after Bruce Banner returns to Earth the way he did in Infinity War, setting about with the intention of warning Doctor Strange that Thanos is coming. His fear turns to confusion, however, when he realises he is alone, and things only get worse when he enters the street and is greeted by Thanos' minion, Cull Obsidian, and Ebony Maw, who ignore the quiet surroundings and sets about killing Dr. Banner, only to be killed himself by zombie versions of the Avengers. Bruce is saved by Cloaky, Doctor Strange's cloak of levitation, Hope, and Spider-Man, who swings in to pull Bruce out of the scene and up into the survivors' hangout, where they meet Bucky Barnes, Okoye, Sharon Carter, Happy Hogan, and Kurt from the Ant-Man series. The group believe there is a cure to be found in Camp Lehigh, New Jersey. On the way, they lose Happy and Sharon. The latter is destroyed by Hope, who in the process becomes infected with the virus. In an effort to do one final act of heroism, Hope sacrifices herself to a horde of zombies as she, in her giant form, throws the survivors over the fence to the camp and safety. They meet Vision and the disembodied head of Scott Lang, who was revived from his zombie state by the Mind Stone in Vision's head. The group discover Vision has been keeping zombie Wanda Maximoff alive by feeding her pieces of a captured T'Challa. Wanda kills Kurt, Okoye, and Bucky. Seeing how dangerous his love has become, Vision sacrifices himself by giving the survivors the Mind Stone. Bruce stays behind, fending off Wanda, as Peter Parker, T'Challa, Scott, who can now move with the help of Cloaky, escape in a quadjet, in the hopes of curing the world. Little do they know that a zombified Thanos, wielding the 5 other Infinity Stones, is awaiting their arrival. The setting. The setting of this episode was everything you would expect from a zombie show or film. Empty streets to fill the zombies. It was this horror aspect of this episode that I loved. Each scene felt both equally depressing and daunting. From an abandoned sanctum sanctorum to an abandoned train, each scene felt like it came right out of an apocalypse. My favourite setting was a zombie-flooded San Francisco. Watching the Avengers die under the sunset was harrowing, but also somewhat beautiful to behold. The creators definitely knew how to play with emotions when it came to setting the scene of this episode. If you're enjoying this video so far, please consider checking out my Patreon linked in the description below. For just £1 or your currency's equivalent of £1 each month, you will be able to see all my videos a day before they become public. That's my Patreon linked in the description below. Thank you for considering. The characters. This episode had a smaller cast of characters, which really allowed us to get to know each one more individually. There was a real sense of familial love between them, which was pleasant to watch, but also heartbreaking when certain scenes aired, such as Hope talking to Peter Parker. Let's go through a few of the characters from this episode and what I thought of each one. Bruce Banner. Bruce was the character that first introduced us to this new universe. We discovered the zombies with him, and that made him somewhat of a stand-in for us as the viewer. As the episode continued, less and less attention was put on to Banner, to the point that when his character left the episode at the risk of sounding inconsiderate, I almost didn't care, which is a shame because he made such a grand entrance to begin with, and it would have been nice to follow him right through to the end rather than see him pass the baton to Peter Parker and Hope Van Dyne, though I did like the idea of a new set of Avengers being formed in the wake of the old team being lost. Hope Van Dyne. This is the second episode in the series where Hope played a prominent role, this time actually appearing on screen rather than as a grave. I really enjoyed the fact this series has been driving it home how important the Ant-Man series is to the MCU and the characters within the section of it. In the comics, Janet Van Dyne was the one who started the Avengers team as Wasp, so it was lovely seeing her daughter start a new team in this episode. I loved Hope's characterization this episode, and felt horrible after she sacrificed herself. Was kind of gross seeing her explode out of Sharon Carter though. Peter Parker. It's safe to say Peter Parker was the heart of the survivors group, bringing the much needed optimism into what would have otherwise been another depressing episode, especially following episodes 3 and 4. This episode needed to be more hopeful, and I think it pulled it off well, despite this not being when it was originally planned to release. Spidey really came into his own in this episode, and was great watching him mature the way he did, even though it was also rather depressing. Scott Lang. Scott was hilarious in this episode. I feel he brought the best jokes out of the group, and like Peter, truly made this video so much easier to consume. The gag that he was a Futurama-esque head was perfect for his character, and I hope we get to see it in live action at some point. It was a little strange Scott didn't mention his daughter once, but I rationalised that he's in such a trauma-inducing situation that maybe he just didn't want to think of her as gone, which is fair enough. That would definitely have made this episode 10 times darker. The survivors. As I mentioned earlier, all the survivors made for an interesting group and dynamic. I never would have put any of them together as a group. I did feel there were some sacrificial lambs amongst the group, especially Happy, Sharon and Kurt, since I couldn't personally see them becoming the main heroes of the story. It felt almost rigged with who would and wouldn't make it. Those sacrifices the group made were all daunting and uniquely powerful for me. Hope and Okoye's being the strongest. It was nice seeing a team with such powerful women involved, and I hope we get to see the pair work together in live action soon. It would be great to see the whole team in live action actually. Give us a zombie survivors show. Vision and Wanda. These two just can't catch a break, but every time I see them on my screen I fall in love with them just a little more than I already did, because the love they share with one another plays so well on screen. Despite torturing T'Challa and Wanda being a zombie, the love still shone through, and it was tragically beautiful. Zombie Wanda looked especially cool here. Overall thoughts. Overall, I really enjoyed this episode. It had its ups and downs, sure, but it was easy to follow from the get-go, and generally left me wanting more. The character designs were all great, and it was just a fun little story to add to the series. There's not much else to really say, so instead, why don't you join me as together we ponder the question, what's next? We've reached a unique place in these reviews now, where I know what happens next. So going forward, instead of telling what actually happens next at the risk of spoiling things, I will instead be sharing my original thoughts of what would happen as I watched the original episodes. Just ignore that I watched the finale last week. This particular episode is unique from the rest because we don't actually know what occurs with zombie Thanos when he's revealed at the end. We can only assume zombies will play some role in the future of the MCU, be it in a film or in the second season of the show. Either way, I'm dying for some closure and will not be able to rest until we get some. What happened to the survivors? What's going to happen with zombie Thanos? It's exciting having something from the show left to properly speculate over. So this was the 5th entry in my What If review series. I know this is several weeks late again, but as I mentioned earlier, I had uni and other stuff to focus on. My next entry in the series will be out very soon. I hope you check it out. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you enjoyed this video and the other videos in this series. Like this video. Make sure to comment your thoughts down below if you want to. Hit the notification bell to be notified of when these new videos come up, and don't forget to share this video with your friends because that really helps me out and it will help me reach my next goal, which is 500 subscribers by the end of October. Can we get to it by Halloween? We will see. Again, thank you so much for watching this video and for supporting me, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.